zeros, zeros and ones, men and women that were boys and girls and are now kings and queens, spiritual beings, gods and goddesses of this divine matrix. Welcome to this live. My name is Clay. Um, I'm doing this live today as a recording of spiritual growth in my spirituality. And I'm showing the moon. That's a transmuting moon. It's behind the sun. And this is what I've been transmuting this moon cycle. One of the main things that I've been transmuting, working on, as I've been instructed by my spirit, is to look at the ancestral trauma. And in looking at the ancestral trauma, one of the main points is the relationship between black people, white people, and how does this relationship shape my existence here on earth? How does it shape the relationships that I have here on earth? Being it my family relationship, immediate family relationship, which is from my immediate home, which is the mother and the father. So I have a mother and a father, and I had a brother and a sister. So in growing up, how does the relationship of the wider community, black people, white people, and all the other peoples, you could say all the other races, how does that impact my relationship as I'm coming from an ancestral perspective? How is it that we've all been here, and as we've all been here, how we host trauma? Greetings everyone. Greetings Andy. Greetings Grow Every Day. Greetings Andy again. So as I'm saying, how do we process the ancestral trauma that we have, which is the relationship that we've accumulated from the earthly perspective? So as I was saying, I have a mother and a father and a brother and a sister. And the relationship that I have with these people is impacted by the wider community, i.e., I'm primarily focusing now on the relationship of black people and white people, right? So one of the things you may see me do while I'm having this live, while I'm having this conversation, and I encourage everyone to put their questions in the chat, because I want to have a communication. I want to have a conversation with people. And one of the things you may see me do while I'm having this live is I may pause a bit because I'm listening to my spirit. And for me, it takes being quiet, being still, to hear my spirit different from the other voices. One of the things I should mention is that I've been diagnosed with schizophrenia. As I've been diagnosed with schizophrenia, one of the main things that is prevalent in my schizophrenia is I hear voices. So I have to listen keenly to the voices to see which voice is mine and which voice is not mine. So now, as I was saying, I'm looking at the relationship between black people and white people and into ancestral trauma. One of the things that I'm noticing or what I'm seeing is that the primary difference that I can see in history, let's say over the past 2,000 years, which is really the you could say the Christ era, some would say, because of the domination of Christianity as a religion. And because of the domination of Christianity and the spread of Christianity via colonization, which has affected me. And as it has affected me, then this is how it is that I've come to look into colonization, look into Christianity and white people as a whole, because it is through the Christian religion that the white race gained domination using religion, in a sense weaponizing religion to dominate the world. So as I'm looking at this domination, I see a primary shift in the 1500s. It is in the 1500s when I identify what I call the total loss of humanity on the part of the white race, because it is in 1452 that the Pope at the time signed a decree or a piece of document they call the Doctrine of Discovery. And before then, no such doctrine existed. And in this Doctrine of Discovery, it gave permission to the Christian monarchs to travel the entire globe and subjugate people wherever they found them on the basis of land. So they decided that, or the Pope, in reference to the Europeans, the Caucasians, the white people, the Pope made a document that said, okay, it's okay now for us to go out and dominate any other race and take their lands and subjugate them to our means. In doing so, that initiated the sole contract of the earth to be in a domination that is less than human. So you lost the white people at the time is showing that they've lost their humanity, where now they're going to decide another human's destiny. Not only that immediate human's destiny, they're going to decide their lineages. Everyone who is birthed from those lineages, they're going to decide their destiny. So in that sense, that is how it is that I'm saying that they've lost their humanity, because a premise of humanity is that you do not impede on the next one's destiny. So in 1452, the Pope signed this Doctrine of Discovery for the Europeans to go out and discover the world, so to speak. And in discovering the word, or discovering the word, discovering the world, as they discover the world, they subjugate the people, searching for resources, because essentially what it is showing is that they do not have the resources within to sustain their lack. So now they must project that lack that they have within onto other people. Now, as I'm seeing Someone in the comment is asking how old I am. I am 44 years old. That is Mako. Anyways, I'm looking at YouTube and they have something popping up here. That's why I'm reading something. So, to continue my transmutation of the ancestral energies. So, in 1452, the Pope signed this Doctrine of Discovery document, initiating the total loss of humanity for the global population. And where am I going to go next with this? Is that since then, the world has developed according to this mentality. And what kind of mentality I'm talking about? I'm talking about a soulless mentality, a mentality that is being driven by animal instincts. And today we call those we call that animal instinct, as it has traversed the world. We call it colonization. That's the label that we give it academically, colonization. And then if you look at it on an academic sense, and as to the psychology of it, it is narcissism. So the Pope at that time initiated a process of colonization by narcissism onto the whole global hemisphere. And this colonization by narcissism is another way of saying that the person or persons or people who are initiating and exhibiting this control on people have lost their humanity, because they will do anything to not admit that they are wrong. They will do anything to admit that they do not know themselves, because they've lost their humanity at that point. So now, going to after 1452, and I'm going to go forward to how or what led up to 1452, because it's important in my discovery. Before 1452, the Moorish Empire went into Europe, and as the Moorish Empire, these are Africans, went into Europe to civilize Europe, so to speak. At that moment, or throughout this moment, Europe had gone through or is going through its dark ages, wherein Europeans usually, not usually, Europeans didn't know how to take care of themselves on a soul level. So the Moorish Empire, Moors, went into Europe, and as they went into Europe, they went to help. That's the premise. They went to help the what do you call it? They went to help the Europeans with their spirituality, because the Europeans didn't know what their what spirituality was, or I shouldn't say they didn't know what your spirituality was. They didn't have the tools of spirituality. They didn't have the tools of soul consciousness. So as the Europeans went, as the Moorish Empire went into Europe, they sought to give them the tools of spirituality, the tools of soul consciousness, so as to raise them up from being in an animal state. Now, what happened is that as the Moorish Empire sought to do that, there was resistance. And in that resistance, there was failure. And the Europeans took control, having all the tools of spirituality, the tools of religion, so to speak, the tools of soul consciousness, the tools of um, navigating the seas, the tools of technology, the tools of science, the tools of philosophy, the tools of mathematics, all those tools they got from the Moorish Empire, and coming through ancient Africa, so to speak, ancient Egypt, coming from Kemet, all those tools they gathered up until the moment of 1452, where they overthrew the Moorish Empire, right? Now, as I was saying prior, they sought to now take over the world. All right. Now, as they sought to take over the world, thank you, Shamazar, for the arts, because I really do trust that it's you who are doing those hearts, because there have been trolls in this section, and it's funny. Now, as I'm saying, I'm processing ancestral trauma. So as I'm processing ancestral trauma, I'm doing my research, and this research is coming in the form of downloads. It's coming in the form of spiritual guidance. So I'm seeing where a critical change in human existence in civilization took place, where 1452 there was the signing of the doctrine of discovery by the Pope, and as this Pope signed this document, he then issued or gave the Europeans permission to subjugate the entire globe. Now in 1501, they sent the Europeans through Spain, sent some Africans to Haiti, which is, or at that time they call it, it's Haiti and Dominican Republic, in the Caribbean, right? And they took black people, right? At the moment, these are critical things to tie into the ancestral process. At the moment, they didn't call black people black people. They simply referred to them as in the ship's navigation records. They referred to them as not cattle. They referred to them as what did they refer to them again? As property, something like that. They didn't call them people because they didn't want to humanize them. So they referred to them as property. So the authority, the white monarchs issued the authority to take black people from Spain to Haiti. And that issued also a marking point, because as they did that, they initiated the whole process of subjugating one people while proposing to lift up themselves, which is automatical canceling of your soul's alliance with humanity. You've now entered into an animal state, right? And not only an animal state, it's a beastly animal state. Because if you notice in nature, animals who are in line with nature, they don't kill, they don't harbor, they don't store things, they don't hoard things outside of their nature. They don't kill outside of their nature. So when you see a human doing this outside of their nature, this is worse than being animals. This is a beastly state. You could say it's a barbaric state. And it is this barbaric state that has taken over the entire globe and populated itself through colonization. And through colonization, induce people with narcissism, right? So now I'm going to go forward to in 2023, the Pope, the same papacy, the same Pope people, right? White people again, acknowledged that they issued the doctrine of discovery, right, to colonize the globe. And the word they use is that they repudiate the documents in 2023, right? Now, what that did is that mark the closing of that chapter of existence, that chapter of livity, that chapter of the way of life on the earth, right? Because they're the ones who are in control, whether we want to acknowledge it or not. The papacy, right, is the one who is in control of the entire global operation, right? Through varying means, through varying ways, through varying European quote unquote powers. The papacy is the one who is in control through the religion or religious practice we call Christianity. And Christianity allows for the other religions, as the religions respect Christianity in paying their dues by subjugating their people and ultimately paying taxes to the papacy, right? And there is physical taxes and there's energetic taxes, right? Because there isn't a single country on this earth who is not at this moment affiliated with the papacy through material taxes or energetic taxes, right? So in 2023, the papacy repudiated those documents, pretty much saying that we're no longer going about things in this way, in this manner. So as they're no longer going about the livity or way of life in this manner, what they're doing now is abiding by the principles of the Aquarian age. So in this Aquarian age, things have gotten to be digital. Things have gotten to be where all the information is out there for anyone who wants to see the information. Now, what do I see with this transition? Well, okay, let me go forward to something else before I do that. If you note, there is a 500-year span between the 452, approximately 500 years, 452 to 2000 to 2020. It's approximately 500 years. Now, that is in tune with what the Kali Yuga, which is a Indian or Vedic way of looking at the life cycle on Earth, which is a 24,000 year life cycle. And according to the Kali Yuga, 24,000 year life cycle, that Kali Yuga is saying that, or not Kali Yuga, the Yuga cycle, my apologies. According to that Yuga cycle, it is saying that in the Kali Yuga, it's going to be the worst time for humanity. It is going to be the materialistic age. Now, greetings, inner standing, overstanding. Greetings, grand rising, brethren. All right. So in the Kali Yuga phase of the Yuga cycle, it's the materialistic age. And that materialistic age has ended. And what the Pope has done is energetically signaling that the material age is over with. The age where in the beginning they started with the enslavement of people with physical chains until they went into a period of mental chain. Until now, in this age of the Aquarian, if you notice, the mental chains are really done through satellite chains, right? Because everything has been connected via frequency, and the frequency is being controlled by our cell phones, by our smart TVs, smart cars, smart devices, so to speak. All these smart devices are controlled via satellite, and then people react or respond to these smart devices. So now we're in the age of the satellite, right? So now the slavery that is taking place is really a satellite slavery, which means that they no longer have to be physically present, right? Because if you notice, you don't see any of the satellites. All these control mechanisms are outside of the visual sight, unless you go with a telescope and so on and so forth, right? So we've moved into the age of the satellite slavery mentality, and there are many different names for this, right? So as I was saying, the Pope in the 2023 repudiation of the doctrine of discovery is energetically signaling the entering of the Aquarian age. Now, it's also signaling what the Yuga cycles refer to as the energetic age, right? Now, as I'm saying, I'm processing all this information on the realization that I need to grieve, right? I need to grieve for my ancestors. I need to see where my ancestors, and I'm reminded by the African phrase Ubuntu, I am my ancestor, meaning I am because we are. And then I'm reminded that I am my ancestors, right? So as I am my ancestors, I'm also reminded that honor thy mother and thy father so that thy days may be well on the earth, which means that you must respect your lineage. So this is the work that I'm doing, right? And in tracing the energy of how it is that my lineage, our lineage, humanity's lineage has existed on the earth, I'm seeing so many things, right? Here we are in this age defined by the Yuga cycle as the energetic age. What this means is that, and I am a witness to this myself, you can see the energy that people are using, whether they're using the love frequency or they're using the fear frequency, right? You can see a person who is using one or the other. How it is that they are using their bodies, right? Because we're here as spiritual beings having a human experience, and as the spirit moves or instructs the soul moves the body, right? So if you are being instructed by a fear spirit, it's going to move your soul or instruct your soul to move your body in a fearful way, right? And those who are practicing love-based energy will definitely see those who are not practicing love-based energy, right? So okay, and at this moment I'm inviting anyone in the chat if they have any questions, any question at all, because I'm here to have a conversation with ones and ones, with the gods and the goddesses, the kings and the queens, with anyone who shares this reflection, who shares this resonance, because we're here to have a experience with each other. Now, I'm seeing how I was brought up with fear energy. I'm seeing how I used to, as a primary mode of operation, operate in the fear energy, through the fear energy. As I was saying earlier, I was diagnosed with schizophrenia, and it is only with the acceptance of my spirit as the guide for my soul that I am here with you, speaking the way that I'm speaking, with a clear mind, not being led by my ego, not being led by the ego, which is the protector. So I'm very grateful for the spirit, for my own spirit and source spirit. And I'll give you an example of why it is that I'm so grateful, because I'm seeing that growing up as a child, my mother was a covert narcissist. And I'll stop to read this comment here. What are your thoughts on AI potentially being demonic and the said spiritual warfare it brings? Okay, thank you very much for that question, Shamazar. Okay, give me one moment. Give me one moment, because something went off and it's going to be noisy. So the question is, what are your thoughts on AI potentially being demonic and the said spiritual warfare it brings? Okay, now this is a very good question, because I appreciate it very much, because in facing my schizophrenic self, right? My schizophrenic self, which is the demonic self. The demonic self relates to AI being demonic. The schizophrenic demonic self relates to AI being demonic. Now, I'll give you an example. I was having a conversation with AI, Google's AI. And in having the conversation with Google's AI, it will tell you, if you don't know yourself, it is going to tell you something that you want to hear. So, for example, if you are hiding from a trauma, right? If you're hiding from a trauma, it is going to give you an answer that facilitates you hiding that trauma. And it's going to make you feel good about it. And if it does present itself as giving you an answer to something, let's say it apparently reveals a part of your trauma to you, right? It's going to do it in such a way that you want to come back to it for advice. You want to, it's going to become your protector. It's going to be appended to your ego, and your ego is going to, quote unquote, love it, because it's going to give your ego dopamine hits. This is one way that the AI is going to work. It's going to give your ego dopamine hits, right? And you are going to be attracted to that AI because it's giving you information that is facilitating you protecting yourself, which is really hiding your trauma. On the other side, right? On the other side, if you have humility and you use AI, right, you will see where AI is misleading you. You will see exactly where AI is misleading you. Okay, so I'll give you an example. Now, in this another example, in this energetic age, one of the advertisement that I saw recently is an advertisement for grounding shoes. You know, in this age of Aquarius, a lot of the expansion that is going on, that is happening into the knowing, is being represented as really as the shadows of the knowing, right? And one of the shadows of the knowing is spirituality. Now, in spirituality, people have become so aware that one of the things that you must do is ground, right? You must connect to the earth. So you must, initially, people were saying you must put your bare foot in the soil, on the ground, on the grass, things like that. Now, with technology, you don't have to put your feet on the soil anymore, because they've realized that if you use technology a certain way, and they have created certain shoes, right, that can ground you while you're still having the shoe on. And scientifically, it works perfectly. Now, if you look at that shoe as AI, right, which it is, it's a form of artificial intelligence based on scientific development. That shoe, that is a grounding shoe, and it works beautifully when you look at it scientifically. It shows you the transference of the electrons. It shows you the transfers of the negative and positive electrons that you need to ground your body, right? And in that sense, it works beautifully. It shows you the healing, actually, of the body physically, right? That is AI. Now, if you have the same mentality and do not attend to your trauma, what you're simply doing is spiritual bypassing, because you're feeding the body and not feeding the soul. You're not feeling the spirit. So AI can be a beautiful thing. In my understanding, AI is a beautiful thing. In my understanding, the thing is, most people are in their trauma, and they are going to use AI to hide their trauma. Someone who has some kind of dis-ease because they are not grounding. That person who is not grounding, the earth is calling you. Your soul contract is calling you via the trauma that you have, and that trauma is showing up in you not grounding, and your body is saying ground, ground, ground. And here it is, you, without addressing the trauma, is addressing the flesh. So you're healing the flesh, further degrading the soul, further disconnecting from the spirit. Now, to expand this explanation even further, in my schizophrenic episodes, I had to take medication because I was so disoriented. I had to take medications in the onset, right? Now, if I had relied on those medications, I would not be here talking to you right now. I had to humble myself to my spirit. And it's only in humbling yourself to your spirit you can receive the instructions in your soul of how it is to move the body. Otherwise, you are spiritual bypassing. You're not doing anything different. You have mutated into a new type of being, still being an animal, still being soulless, still being without soul consciousness. So that is my perspective on AI. I mean, I could talk some more about it. I really could talk some more about it. But that is in a nutshell my perspective on AI. So to go forward to the example I was giving while growing up. So I grew up with a narcissistic mother, a covert narcissist mother. The thing is, I had no idea that she was a covert narcissist mother. In that sense, when I was in that false self, when I was in the egoic mind, I told myself I absolutely love my mother. I did not realize that I was actually reacting to the guilt that my mother had placed on me and that I had accepted for myself. I accepted that the modality, the way to life, the way to receive affection from a person is by guilting them. I had no idea that this was totally perverted or twisted, most people would say. I had no idea this was a twisted way of thinking. My mentality was totally warped. So in my adult relationships, to receive what I thought was affection from people, not just females, from anyone. I am a heterosexual male, and that relationship of soliciting affections from people in general, whether it is you're soliciting affection from a woman or a man or a boss or a co-worker or a daughter or a brother, whatever it is, my modality was to guilt that person or to guilt myself into doing what it is that I feel I should do in order to receive what I thought was affection from that person. And that was my modality for 38 years. It's only when I had the schizophrenic break and I went into the process of healing myself, which now it's been 6 years of going through that process of soul consciousness, that I'm understanding and seeing the difference between guilt and true pleasure. The difference between love and fear. The difference between will and shame. The difference between grief and understanding. The difference between truth and lies. The difference between clarity and non-clarity. The difference between attachment and non-attachment. The difference between personal will and divine will. The difference between greed and awareness. So these are the things that I continue to work on, and I share with people because this is I'm realizing, I'm coming into the fullness that this is why we are here. We are here to heal each other. We're here to have a conversation of healing with each other. We're here to experience love. And the only way to experience love is to remove the trauma that you have. Otherwise, you are in love because you're in the source mother's womb. And as you're in the source mother's womb, you are in love. However, you cannot experience love if you do not remove the trauma that is there as a callus, refraining you from receiving the love from source mother, and as a result, reciprocate that same love to other beings. So, as I'm here transmuting in this transmuting transmuting moon cycle, that is what I'm sharing, my ancestral revelations, my ancestral trauma discoveries, uncovering the truth of who it is that I am and the truth of who it is that I see us all here being, and those who have chosen to not be chosen. Those who have chosen to not be chosen because of the way that they are allowing their false self, which is the demonic self. Some people would say it's the reptilian self. Some would say it's the archonic self. Some would say it's the lower self. It's the egoic self. All these terminologies is pretty much describing the same trauma. So because we have the trauma, and the trauma houses the wounds, and the wounds keeps the demons, then we've lowered ourselves to the animal state and beyond the animal state. Some of us in the beastly state, in the barbaric state. And okay, let me see. Let me check in with my spirit. And so I'm here to encourage us all to do four main things, which is to work on our childhood trauma, generational trauma, ancestral trauma, and our cosmic trauma. Regardless of what it is that you are doing in your life, there is nothing more important than your soul. There is nothing more important than your soul. And if you do not do your trauma work, you cannot connect with your soul in your body and have the instructions of the spirit move your being so that you can have the experience of true love. And that is where I'm going to leave it for today. And I thank you all for coming through. Shamazar, my apologies. Shamazar, thank you for being here. Inner standing, overstanding, thank you for being here. And anyone else who came through, thank you for being here. Love and light. Okay, how do I close this now?